Today, I'm going to talk to you about understanding students with ADHD. We're going to discuss what ADHD is, how many students with ADHD are currently being served in the U.S., how has the number of students identified increased in recent years, what some of the reported reasons for that increase are, what are the specific behaviors/characteristics of students with ADHD, in what ways do these characteristics make it difficult for students to learn and participate in school, if all students with ADHD demonstrate the same characteristic or degree of behavior, under what category are students with ADHD identified according to IDEA, and we'll discuss effective class-wide interventions for all students, but especially those who display characteristics of ADHD. Hopefully this PowerPoint will give you a better understanding of students with ADHD. Before we jump into some of our topics, we should first discuss what ADHD is. According to the CDC website, ADHD is one of the most common neurodevelopment disorders of childhood. It is usually first diagnosed in childhood and often lasts into adulthood. Children with ADHD may often have trouble paying attention, controlling impulsive behaviors, or be overly active. Since IDEA doesn't specifically define ADHD, most professionals adhere to the definition offered by the American Psychiatric Association. This definition focuses on two domains: inattention and hyperactivity/impulsivity that interferes with the student's development and function in multiple settings, including school. And I found this in our Educating Exceptional Learners book. So this is just a brief overview of what ADHD is. Now we're going to talk about how many students with ADHD are currently being served in the U.S., how the number of students identified increased in recent years, and what are some of the reported reasons for that increase. In the United States, approximately 7% of children are identified as having ADHD. Research suggests that rates have increased by approximately 30% since the late 1990s. Boys are approximately 3 times more likely to experience ADHD as girls are. This was all in the Educating Exceptional Learners book, which was written in 2016. And I wanted to get another opinion, so I looked into the CDC website. According to the CDC website, though, in 2016, due to a survey, there was 9.4% of people with ADHD. 388,000 children aged 2 to 5 years, 4 million children aged 6 to 11 years, and 3 million children aged 12 to 17 years. Boys were more likely to have it than girls, though, and this was reported in the book and on the CDC website. The reported reasons for this increase included healthcare. The rise was most pronounced in minority groups, suggesting that better access to healthcare insurance, mental health treatment through the Affordable Care Act might have played some role in the increase. I found this in a news article. It also stated that people are wondering if children are being overdiagnosed because the U.S. has more instances of ADHD than any other developed countries, but research doesn't prove that this is correct. So I took a look into all these things to figure out all this, and now we're going to talk about what the specific behavior characteristics of students with ADHD are. In what way do these characteristics make it difficult for students to learn and participate in school? And do all the students with ADHD demonstrate the same characteristics or degree of behavior? So let's move on to the slide. Some specific behaviors/characteristics of students with ADHD are when students have trouble with 6 or more of the following, like paying attention to details, such as making careless mistakes, paying attention to academic and social activities, listening when someone speaks directly to them, following instructions/finishing tasks, organizing tasks and activities, sustaining mental effort, keeping track of necessary supplies, avoiding distractions, and remembering daily activities. So remember, this is just something that a student with ADHD has trouble with, and this type of ADHD is called predominantly inattentive type. There's also a predominantly hyperactive impulsive type. Students with this type have difficulty with keeping hands and feet still, staying in their seat, keeping hands and feet still, so staying in seat, staying seated, resisting running or climbing in appropriate situations, participating quietly in leisure activities, resisting being constantly on the go, talking excessively, blurting out answers prematurely, waiting for a turn, and interrupting others. And I found this in the Educating Exceptional Learners book. Students have issues with this because of the ADHD, and it's important to be patient with those children that have these issues. I know sometimes it can be hard and it can be a struggle, but we have to remember that it's not their fault and we need to continue to help them. I've worked with children as a special education paraprofessional for a preschool. They might not always stay on track, but it's important to remember, like I said, that it's not their fault. And you need to help them because that's your job. Now let's talk about how these characteristics make it difficult for students to learn and participate in school. They might not do as well as other students or fall behind due to getting distracted. They can't focus as well as their students because of the ADHD. And it's easy to see why students with ADHD have difficulty participating in the classroom. If they can't stay focused or stay on task, then they are not going to do as well as the other students. Not all students with ADHD exhibit the same characteristics of degree. I previously just talked about many things children with ADHD have difficulty with. But students with ADHD have a predominantly inattentive type, and those characteristics include having issues with paying attention to details, making careless mistakes, paying attention to academic and social activities, listening when someone speaks directly to them, etc. There's also a predominantly hyperactive impulsive type. These characteristics included having issues with keeping hands and feet still, staying seated, resisting running or climbing in the appropriate situation, etc. Also, there is a combined type of both of the two types, which includes predominantly inattentive and predominantly hyperactive/impulsive. For this slide, we're going to talk about under what category are students with ADHD identified according to IDEA. According to IDEA, instead of listing ADHD as a separate disability category, IDEA includes it as a subcategory of other health impairments. Under this definition, students have limited strength, vitality, or alertness, including a heightened alertness to environmental stimuli, resulting in limited alertness with respect to the education environment. And that is due to chronic or acute health problems such as asthma, and diabetes, and there's more. And adversely affects children's educational performance. All the information I just discussed was found in the Educating Exceptional Learners book. ADHD accounts for slightly more than 2/3 of students identified in the category of other health impairments. Because of coexisting disabilities, students with ADHD often are also served through IDEA in the categories of learning disability, emotional or behavior disorders, and intellectual disability. Again, all the information I just discussed was found in the Educating Exceptional Learners book. Since IDEA doesn't specifically define ADHD, most professionals adhere to the definition offered by the American Psychiatric Association. This definition focuses on two domains, inattention and hyperactivity/impulsivity, that interferes with the student's development and function in multiple settings, including school. I mentioned that on the first slide as well when I was talking about what ADHD is. Now we're going to move on to slide 6. We're going to discuss effective class-wide interventions for all students, but especially those who display characteristics of ADHD. The first step in creating classroom supports for students with ADHD is understanding the student's strength and their needs. This involves formal and informal assessment, as well as collaboration among educational professionals and the students' families. It's important to have the students' families be involved and have other teachers or educational professionals be involved. That way you can all come up with class-wide interventions for not only your classroom students that do not have ADHD, but those who do have ADHD as well. Some class-wide interventions we can do is give a minimal number of directions or steps at a time, provide written directions or steps or a visual model of completed projects, break tasks into smaller units by limiting amount of work per page, covering up part of the work on a page, allowing extra time for completing tasks, providing work breaks, allowing students to use a computer to type or to use a speech-to-text software, and reducing the length of written assignments. And this can be done for students with ADHD and students that don't have ADHD as well. For example, if we allow them extra time for completing tasks. I think it's important that all students get this extra time. So maybe it's right after recess before you start your next subject. You can say, okay, I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes. Why don't you go ahead and work on what we were previously doing? And we can, to help students stay organized, and we can provide the student with an assigned notebook to help organize homework and seat work. And you can do this with any of your students. It's important for all students to stay organized. So if you gave them all maybe like a folder and they could keep all their stuff in there, and they would know on the left side, maybe this is the stuff that you need to do for homework, and on the right side, this doesn't need to be done. And that'll help the parents know too what their child has for homework. You can also provide the student with color-coded folders, like I said, to help organize assignments for different academic subjects. Assign the student a partner who can help record homework and other seat work in the proper folders and assignment book. Periodically ask the student to sort through and clean out his or her desk, book bag, and other special places where written assignments are stored. And there's more than just that. I have found this all this information on classroom interventions for attention deficit / hyperactivity disorder considerations packet, which was a website online. I think that these class-wide interventions will help not only students with ADHD, but those without as well. And like I said, all of these things will help not just only students with ADHD, which is what I just said, but all the other students. And all these class-wide interventions will be beneficial for the students, and they'll be able to grow, and the students with ADHD will be able to focus more in the classroom and get as much work done as the students that do not have ADHD. Finally, our last slide is our references page. I found a majority of my information throughout our textbook for this class, I found a majority of my information for this PowerPoint and for this video throughout the textbook. There was a lot of great information on the other websites as well. I used the CDC website, which I talked about. I found a What is ADHD website, and I found the classroom interventions for attention deficit / hyperactivity disorder considerations packet, which was a PDF, and it was on a website and had a lot of great information in it. I appreciated taking a deeper look into ADHD and finding out what it really means. To review, we discussed what ADHD is, how students with ADHD are currently being served in the U.S., how has the number of students identified increased in recent years, and what are some of the reported reasons for that increase? What are the specific behaviors / characteristics of students with ADHD, and in what ways do those characteristics make it difficult for students to learn and participate in school? If all students with ADHD demonstrate the same characteristics or degree of behavior, and we explain if they did or not. We talked about ADHD identified, and finally we talked about class-wide interventions for all students, especially those who display characteristics of ADHD. I think that if someone learned from this, and they learn a lot, because I know I did learn a lot from looking through the book and learning about ADHD. I knew about ADHD before because, like I said, I worked in I was a paraprofessional with a preschool, so I knew a little bit about ADHD, but just learning from the book and looking through the articles, and I found some of the statistics really interesting, and I just think it was very beneficial for myself to learn about, and it would be beneficial for others to learn about as well. Thank you.